Good morning. I'm Dr. Felice Cellini, and I am blessed and grateful to be in recovery. Thank you for joining us on our Sunday morning Why Wait for Recovery community meeting.
Good morning. My name is Haiti, and I am so blessed and grateful to be in recovery. I am an emotional eater. I'm also a binger, a purger. I'm a drug addict in recovery, and we get together every Sunday to discuss what is recovery and how it works.
Why we gotta do it.
We're not a formal association. We are just two girls having a conversation about what recovery looks like for us, and we're sharing with our community our stories and experiences of strength, courage, and hope.
Okay then, I'm a drug addict, alcoholic, anorexic in recovery. Thank you for being here this morning. So we've been talking about hope. Actually, we talk about whatever comes up, right? But we've been talking about trying to keep hope as the theme. Last time we talked about pain ending, and we actually didn't really get to speak with everybody because when we talk about pain, everybody has something to share.
Right.
And so we talk about hope and understanding that pain will end. And today we're going to talk about how recovery isn't just a quick fix. And we wish that it was, especially this morning, because then we could be at the beach and we wouldn't be doing this meeting if it was a quick fix, right?
Right. Well, I always hoped that I could eat whatever I wanted and it just wouldn't affect me in any way. I mean, I had a lot of hope when I was using of things and stuff, but not really of feeling great.
Okay. And I have hope in recovery sometimes that I just don't have to pay attention to recovery, and that doesn't happen for me either. And so for me, it's practicing my recovery to the best of my ability and doing my best to do my best, and understanding that my brain works a little bit differently than other people's brains do. So there's certain things that I'm abstinent from, and that isn't part of my recovery, but it allows me to stay in recovery. We have a lot of talk on the internet right now about more diet kind of things and medication kind of things. So I want to put it out there that we are not a diet group, and that we don't give any ideas or any information about medication. That's something that is between you and your docs, you guys. And as far as diets goes, our thing is abstinence from anything that touches the dopamine receptor, which are the sweets and the starches, and that's pretty much all we need to talk about, because it's never about the food, it's always about the feelings behind our behaviors. And when we work on the feelings behind our behaviors, we're actually working on our recovery.
I would love to say something as well, because food addiction is extremely insidious, and for me, I'm that obsessive compulsive personality, and when I start going down the route of can't I, and I start playing with the foods, and my thoughts start becoming about it and not so much on my recovery, because for me, my recovery is very black and white. Mm-hmm. So if I start going down that road, that's my addiction speaking. When I start hitting on all the stuff instead of the spiritual side of recovery, which is practicing and living by the principles and focusing on, and I rather go down the route of the physical crap, which I call it, and I start counting down between meals, and I start justifying why it's okay to use or pick up certain things. That's a very dangerous place for me to be, because when I put myself in chaos or put myself in that thinking, I've got the addict's head that will automatically take me back to why it's okay to use. And that's not a place I want to head for or go towards. So for me, when we discuss recovery, I love focusing on the solution rather than the problem.
Right, so you're talking about the difference between talking about your addiction, right, and the difference between talking about our recovery. And like you said, the difference between talking about the problem, the challenge, and talking about recovery, the solution.
Right, and one of the reasons we have, we connect as a community on Facebook for people who are out there. People live stream us on YouTube, on Google+, on Facebook, on different places. We have a closed group on Facebook called What's Eating Youth, and that's a supportive community to deal with the issues of recovery. And we really try to keep it pretty clean, in terms of stepping, this is a challenge, this is my solution, rather than getting into details of what the stuff looks like. Because if I start romanticizing the things I'm using, it's a dangerous place for me to sit.
Right, and again, you're reiterating what you had said. Right. You're going to talk about the solution instead of spending all that time talking about the problem.
Right.
So thank you for saying that, because that's always our thing, right? you got your 15 seconds worth of what's your problem, and then we got the rest of our lives to talk about what the solution is. Because when we're stepping into the solution, that's when we're learning about recovery and learning about getting well. So thank you.
Right, and I would love to also just discuss hope, because hope was a very strange thing. When I was I was in that place of active addiction, my days were either good or bad. I knew what my day was going to look like. I knew how I'd plan it out so I could make that time to use, and it was spinning those plates to be able to use. The hope became that there was something different. I came into the rooms very broken, very despondent, very lonely. I was at my absolute worst place. I had to believe that something out there was a little bit better than the way that I was living. So the hope of something different really, and I got that from other people and connecting from other people who really had found a better way of life, was something that started speaking to me that goes, maybe the way I've been doing things isn't the right answer and the way forward. So I think hope in terms of recovery is a huge aspect.
Yeah, and so without hope, I believe that it's impossible to recover. And so, for me, when I first went into treatment, I had no hope. I was either going to die or get well. So I was, the universe does for you what you can't do for yourselves. And so my universe at that time was my family, Susan, best mom ever. Shout out to you. Thanks for saving my life. And so I was put in a place where I didn't have a choice so that I could get clean, so that I could get some hope. So for me, it was allowing my brain to clear itself out while I was working on my recovery, while I just started working on my recovery. And then it was the community around me that gave me that hope, that helped me to get well and helped me understand about recovery, as opposed to just wanting to use, that there was something better out there.
And also becoming more discerning and selective over who I took advice from. And it's true, because when I came into the rooms, most of my friends were addicts. We were all using together and justifying why it was okay to use together and how fabulous it was, and we all felt like shit. At the end of the day, we were unhealthy and just really despondent.
And unhappy.
Really and despondent and lonely, and we were doing really physical stuff and really scared and pretending. I was lying so much. I was lying and pretending on the outside. So really, I've learned to become very discerning over what I listen to and who I take advice from.
Yeah, and that's good advice. No, it really is. So remember, you guys, we never want to be the smartest person in the room. So if you need advice from somebody, find somebody that you trust and you trust their recovery and ask them for some advice. Put it out there. Remember, everybody has an opinion, right? They say opinions are like, everybody's got one. And that's okay. And we're all entitled to our opinion. And when we're talking about recovery, please be aware that you want to, you could do whatever you want to do. I take the advice from people who I respect their recovery. And so that's just something to put in our heads to think about.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'm on board.
Yeah, okay. And so last time, Nancy, we didn't have a chance to hear from you. We had been talking about, I think, relationships, right? And yes.
Sorry, 1 second. Can I just, Nancy, 1 second. People join us virtually through our waiting room. If you want to hop into the conversation, now's a great time to do it.
Thank you. Nancy, can we make Nancy a little bit louder because I couldn't hear her? Hey, Nancy.
Hi.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we were talking about authenticity, and Liz was talking about being argumentative with people, and you were using yourself as an example, saying you're such a bitch, or people would think or say that, Felice, you're such a bitch, and you think you're so great, and you think because you got letters after your name and blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. And I was just dying to to say something, because that's exactly how I had felt the week before, because I said something about the pain that I was in for the last few days, and you kind of blew me off and said, well, most people have pain and they just take an ibuprofen, but as addicts, don't do that. And
Okay.
anyways, I realized that the reason that you
Can you
pissed
bring
me
it up
off
for me, please?
is because you're exactly like me. And I'm a bottom line kind of person. Like, that's what I always used to say to my ex. Can you just bottom line it for me? I don't need to hear all the details. Just bottom line it for me. And I think you're the same way. So I think that's why you pissed me off.
So Nancy, what I was saying last time, just so that we're clear, is that I say what I say, and you perceive it the way that you perceive it. So
Right.
you could see me as an abrasive bitch, or you could see me as God's gift to the universe, or you could not care. For me, what I need to do for me, for my recovery, as far as authenticity goes, is to show up and do my best to do my best. Now remember, you posted something on Facebook, and I'm going to get back to this. I believe
Okay.
that I said, and I'm going to read what I said, just so that we can go over it a little bit, so that we can understand my exact point. Because my exact point was, people say what they say, and you take it the way that you take it, right? Dawn can say to me, have a good day, and I could be thinking about Dawn, well, what a bitch. She didn't even ask me how my day was. Or I could say, what a goddess. She asked me to have a good day. That's about me. That's about me. That's not about her. That's all she said was have a good day. I believe, and can we find what I wrote to Nancy? It's in private messages, so I'd actually like to bring it up, just so that I can tell you, because remember, again, shout out to Susan, there's a story that we tell ourselves, and then there's what's really happening, right? And so you read something, and you take it because of where you are, as opposed to perhaps how it was meant to be, which doesn't matter. You're going to take it from, we all take, everything that we take in from the world, we take in from the place that we're sitting, right? And so I believe my point was that we've all been in so much pain, you know, and that it's possible. And what I talked about was spiritual pain, actually. And that sometimes I even think that's a spiritual pain, because I've been in both. And for me, the spiritual pain was actually worse than the physical pain. You know, as addicts, can we take medication that's addicting? Well, again, that's between you and your doctor. I can't say that, so.
It starts there.
It starts there, yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to read all this. But anyway, but my hope for you is that no matter what you're going through, that spiritually, that you're going to get better. That's always my hope for you. Physically, that's between you and your docs, right? But spiritually, that'll depend on your recovery. And my hope for you is that you really get better and you feel better all the way around. Did we lose her? Oh, you went over there on that side. So thanks for sharing that, Nancy.
Okay.
I
And
appreciate
know-
that.
Yeah, I know that. So I realized that myself by realizing that we're both so much alike. That's why you irritate me sometimes.
Yeah, a reflection of yourself, right?
Exactly.
Right? Right? So if you could fix me, then maybe you could fix you. Right?
Yeah.
All right, so thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. And I really appreciate it. Thanks for remembering, because I wouldn't have remembered without writing it down what we were talking about last time. So thanks. Laura, good morning. We haven't heard from you, so I just want to check in with you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm just realizing that this whole process and everything that we're going through, when you talk about the spiritual side, it's all about the spiritual part of me. And I never seem to become aware of my stuff until the night before or the day of our meetings. It's really strange. And I think the thing that I've been noticing with me is people were talking a little while ago about, just feeling very irritable and bitchy or whatever. I've been extremely irritable and short. And what came up last night for me, knowing that we were getting on the call this morning, is what I'm realizing. I'm not eating, right? Because I had surgery. I can't eat like I used to. I'm incredibly lonely. That's what I'm realizing. And the reason I'm lonely, I was thinking about that. I have all these great people in our community to reach out to. Of Ange, I have you, of that, like everybody up here on the panel. It's that there's something I don't think about it. I need to really work on it. I'm used to just being on my own, dealing with my own stuff, doing whatever. And I don't allow people in. And it's not even a conscious thing for me that I, choose not to let people in. It's almost like I have to learn I have to learn this.
So Laura, you and I have spoken a little bit before, and I'm going to tell you that for me, I was also used to doing absolutely 100% of everything on my own.
Yeah.
And I had my boyfriend and my kid actually, well, the boyfriend said, you do everything on your own and you don't share because of your ego. And for me, it was never an ego thing. It was a survival thing. That's how I grew up, and that's how I learned to survive, was to do everything on my own.
Yeah.
And so in recovery, we actually relearn what's okay. We relearn that it's okay to feel, and we relearn that it's okay to share. And we learn that when we are sharing, it allows us to feel closer to others. Now, oftentimes we share and others feel closer to us, but that's about them, right? Because we can't control how they feel. But when we let down the wall a little bit and we share about how we're feeling and we actually ask for help, it allows us, when we become a little bit more vulnerable, it allows us, first of all, to understand that it's okay to ask for help, that the universe doesn't explode when we do, and that other people don't see us as weak when we ask for help. Other people usually are happy to help. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that was a survival mechanism for you.
Yes.
And so you're so used to being in that survival mechanism. I could do this on my own. I could do this on my own. I could do this on my own. I hear you. And it's about learning that it's okay not to carry the burden, or we're going to call it the weight of the world, not to carry the weight of the world on your own shoulders. So when you have the food for comfort, it is your friend. We wrote goodbye letters, right? We wrote goodbye letters to our addiction. And in every goodbye letter, and maybe we could repost those, Ange. Maybe we could do those again for people who haven't done it. You're going to do it in the present, so you're going to write goodbye to your favorite addiction or all of your addictions, whatever that is. Because you're going to see it's like a love letter that you're writing actually to a lover. And so when we give up that lover or that friend, our initial feeling is going to be loneliness.
Right.
And then if we're the people that put up that wall, then we're going to be lonely and isolated and alone. So reach out. You're real good about taking that first step, about having the cognitive realization. And my shrink and I talk about this all the time. Like cognitively, I know 1,000% of what's going on with me. Mm-hmm. And cognitively, I could tell you pretty much so what's going on with you too. Right. It's about taking what's happening here and actually having a feeling about it, not a thought about it, but a feeling about it. Yeah. And that's something that we learn. We go over that stuff in workshop. We've had some pretty tough workshops, but we go over that in workshop. And then we also, for me, I work on that with my therapist. Yeah. But it's something that we actually have to relearn, which is crazy, right? We have to relearn to say, hey, I need your help, without feeling scared about it.
Right. I would love to say something because I relate so much to you as well. I'm a stuffer. I always was a stuffer. I stuffed my feelings. I stuffed the food. I was a stuffer. So it was very easy for me to hide it and push it down. And it took a long time, and I'm still learning how to do this, where I was still disconnected with myself, and all of a sudden I see those behaviors, that shortness, that bitchiness, that irritability, all those other things start coming up for me. So I'm starting to look at those behaviors as a sign that something else is going on, for me to stop and re-look at where I'm at, because I don't always get the feelings. Feelings for me are something I'm still learning what they look like and feel like, because I suppressed them for so long. So those emotions for me come up in other ways. So like I have my trigger foods as a food addict, I also have those trigger behaviors for me that I'm starting to look at, that maybe things are not that perfect when I'm short with my husband, or I need to be right over everything, or certain behaviors, that indignation for me. There's certain things that start coming up that I go, whoa, something else is going on, I need to look at.
And you guys, we're going to remember that everything that's going on is fear. 1,000 different kinds of fear, right? Again, what is fear? I'm afraid of losing what I have or not getting what I want. I'm afraid of being seen a certain way because then you won't respect me, right? How am I going to keep the respect of my community if I actually show that I have a side where I need some help, right? How are they going to see me as a strong, amazingly, just woman that can take on the world? First of all, it don't matter how we see you. It matters how you are. Because we're going to see you the way that we see you, no matter how you are, right? That's us looking at the world through our own eyes. But for your own sake, for you to allow yourself to be a little bit vulnerable and not be afraid of what's going to happen on the other side and just be a little bit vulnerable, you're going to see that you're a little bit less lonely. You know what happens, Laura, sometimes too, is we open up conversations with people and we get a little close and we start talking about stuff that's really inside of us, stuff that's relatable to other people. And then we say, okay, you know what, I think that I'm cured and I don't need to address this anymore. Right? That's the easiest thing. Look, everybody's shaking their head. That's the easiest thing on the planet to do. Okay, I brought that up. Really don't want to delve into that because that's going to be painful. And then that person is going to see where I am instead of me just speaking the words about it. Maybe my voice will crack a little bit. What will that mean? If I show that vulnerability. And so I want you to think about stuff like that. You do use your brain a whole longer time before you use your heart, and that's okay again because it's what you're used to. It's what the universe taught you, and so it's time to unteach you that so that you could be authentic with yourself and that you could feel closer to the people around you and take from the community. Because remember, last time we spoke to you, we talked about how even with one of your closest friends who doesn't really know that much about you, doesn't really know who you are, and that's one of your closest friends, right? And so maybe you're one of her closest friends, but do you feel close with her? Or are you just the person on the other side who's doing the right thing and carrying the burden? That's the lonely place to be.
Yeah.
Right? And when life teaches us when we're growing up that that's the only place that we can survive, then we grow up survivors like that. And again, it's unteaching us. It's relearning something else.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for
Can I
sharing.
just
Dawn's going to share.
throw in, Laura, that not only do you give somebody else the opportunity to help you, you might be creating a God moment for somebody else by reaching out to somebody who just happens at that moment to be really needing somebody to talk to. I mean, there's always the possibility that somebody else is just, has a moment of being saved by your call. You know what I mean?
Which doesn't make it, by the way, doesn't make it any less scary, right?
No.
It's just you're absolutely 1,000% correct. That's what could be on the other end. So that's absolutely correct. And sometimes it's just jumping in the water and learning how to swim.
I'd love to just jump in as well. I'm swimming. So when you speak, it triggers a whole lot of thoughts in my head as well. I always saw myself as a control freak. I had to be in control because as long as I was controlling things, everything was okay. That's what I thought. It's been a long process, but even within my friendships, I was always scared of being vulnerable because there was a certain expectation that if you didn't react in a certain way, my feelings would get hurt. Or I didn't know how to deal with it. For me, I always had a certain reservation or expectation. So the things I'd share were very superficial and very easy because that was an easy way to communicate. I also didn't have the self-worth, believing that in myself I was worth that much to share on that level.
Right.
And that for me is a really tough place to stay because, to be in, because I still have challenges with that. I still have challenges having women friends and opening up to them and just picking up the phone and talking to them or reaching out to people when I'm struggling. But that's something I'm working on. It's a process. It's something I've been this way for a really long time. So it doesn't make it any easier. In fact, I think it's a lot scarier the older we get because we've been carrying it with us and within us for so long. But we're here for you. We love you.
Yeah, I was sharing with my shrink the other day, which we talk about a lot.